Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now, I recently dropped off the Lowrider ST and picked up this absolute hunk of a bike. This is the Harley Davidson Fat Boy. What an amazing name, and what a fitting name for this motorcycle. So let's get into the review. Now, when I looked out my window this morning, it was a rather misty, grey looking day, and it looked to be quite cold, but it was actually a lot warmer than it seems. But now the sun has kind of come out and it's quite a beautiful day actually, and a beautiful spot in the British countryside. This is what it's all about. It's absolutely stunning. Listen to the birds, ride your motorcycle and be at one with nature. Now, this bike is not quite how I expected it to be. Now, I do think this is probably the truest Harley Davidson of the current lineup. This really is what Harleys represent. It's got the classic Harley look. It looks like an old school Harley. It's quite resemblant of the Harley Fat Boy that was ridden by Arnold Schwarzenegger in Terminator. And what a cool bike, and that is something that really has pulled this bike through the ages, is that Terminator appearance. And it does still look like that bike, but it's got even bigger and bigger over the years. You've got these huge beefy front and rear tyres. This rear tyre is one of the widest rear tyres on any production motorcycle, about the same as the not the Fat Boy, this is the Fat Boy, as the Breakout. It looks awesome and it's so menacing. So if you're riding or driving behind this bike, my God, does it have a lot of presence. The only problem is though, that we have these huge wind sails of a number plate here in the UK, and it does really spoil the look of the bike. It's not Harley's fault, it's the stupid regulations, and that's why so many Harley riders put these small number plates on them. It's quite often black and silver, like the classic bikes, because they look a lot better. And to be honest, because this bike looks classic, I think they get away with it a lot of the time, because people either turn a blind eye to it, or they think, oh, well, it must be a classic bike because it kind of looks like one. Whereas if you had a sports bike, you're not going to get away with it, are you? But this thing round the corners, because of these big beefy tyres, is not the most nimble of motorcycles, and it's quite slow at changing direction. When you go around a roundabout, you really have to lean it over. It's like having a wrestling match with a sumo wrestler, and that is what I would describe riding this bike around the corners is like. But that's not a bad thing. I think it's actually part of the experience and the sense of occasion that this motorcycle gives you. And it's so stable at motorway speeds because of these wide tyres. So I would be so happy going on really long motorway or highway journeys on this bike, just cruising along at 70 miles an hour. It's got cruise control as well, so you can just sit there in your armchair position and just cruise for miles and miles. Now, the 114 engine is actually got a little bit more stick than I expected it to have. Now, I've just come off the 117, so I thought this might feel a little bit sluggish in comparison, but it actually doesn't. It's pretty comparable. So to be honest with you, if I had a Lowrider S 114 and they've now brought out the 117 version, or a Breakout 114, I probably wouldn't bother upgrading. It's not that much of a difference to warrant the upgrade. Now, we last did a video with this Fat Boy back in 2021, and at the time I was about 18 or 19 years old, so I didn't have a full motorcycle license because I wasn't old enough in the UK. So now that I do, I've been very eager to get out on this bike because I think it's one of the coolest looking Harleys. It's a true classic looking Harley, and it's such a beautiful bike, so I really wanted to try it out. And if you've been watching the channel for a while, you'll know that we really do love Harleys on this channel. I own a Harley, I've got a Softail Standard, and my dad, the old man, has owned 3 Harleys in his time, so it's really something we love. And if you love them as well, then please do make sure you subscribe. We are about 1,500 subscribers away from 100k, and if we could reach that number, we would just be over the moon. So if you can help us make that happen, we'd be ever so grateful. But we don't just ride Harleys on this channel. We ride all kinds of bikes, but we mainly stick to modern classics, retro bikes, hopefully some actual classics in the near future, and cruisers, because that is what we are passionate about. Bikes with character, with a soul, bikes that really roar and rumble and make awesome sounds, vibrations. They have an amazing sense of occasion, is what keeps us going. So if that's you as well, then subscribing to this channel might be your cup of tea. We don't tend to go much into specs of a motorcycle because you can see most of that on the website, or all of it, on Harley Davidson's website. But after having a look, it's no wonder that I felt that this had plenty of grunt compared to the 117, and that's because this is actually tuned higher than that 117 in the Lowrider ST. This bike produces 175 Nm of torque at 3,500 RPM. So this is an absolute torque monster. It pulls like a freight train, and it lives up to its name. It is the Arnold Schwarzenegger of the motorcycle world. It's an absolute brute. It's got so much low down grunt you wouldn't believe it. And it produces 107 horsepower at 5,020 RPM. But as I always say, it's all about the torque with a Harley Davidson, and this has got all the torque in the world. It's the torquiest motorcycle I've ever ridden so far, and it certainly feels it. But saying that, this isn't a bike that you want to keep pushing on with. You get to 60 or 70 miles an hour, and I'm quite happy just sitting there, taking in the comfort, taking in the air in your face, the smells, the changes in temperature around you. This is a bike that you really want to cruise on. It's a proper cruiser. It's comfortable, it's laid back, but when you want the grunt, it's there. The more I look at this bike, the more I can't take my eyes off of it. It's absolutely stunning. This is probably the most beautiful Harley they make currently. It has to be. It's such a gorgeous bike. When you see it in the flesh, it's even more stunning. It's so cool. And the beauty of Harleys is that there is endless customization possibilities. You could really make this exactly how you want it. It's, in terms of aftermarket parts and things like that, nothing will have more customization than a Harley Davidson. I can guarantee you that. But to be honest with you, this bike looks stunning as it is. It's got these beautiful, wide, nice swept back bars with this really thick tubing and beautiful chrome. The wheels are massive, as I said before, and these are pretty solid, which is very Fat Boy-esque. But on these ones, you have got the sort of holes in the around the wheel, which you didn't have on the 2021 model that we rode previously. The exhaust is a very beautiful staggered exhaust system, but as I always say, this really does need an aftermarket pipe, and there are hundreds of them to choose from, so that would be the first thing I would change. I don't think this needs anything else, to be honest. An exhaust and perhaps a stage 1 tune would be pretty perfect, and I would leave it at that because it's just perfect as it is. It's got a beautiful analog dial on the center of the fuel tank, which is a rather big fuel tank, just under 19 litres. That's beautiful, lovely chrome, stunning design, and it's got a digital display in there, so it tells you everything you need to know. You've got a lovely clear view of the road ahead because you've got nothing obstructing your view here, and the mirrors are nice and wide so you can see plenty of the road behind you. The suspension is lovely, it's a lovely setup, it soaks up the bumps, but because of the wired tyres, if you hit a pothole or you go through a crack in the road, the bike tends to want to follow it, so you really do have to be careful, and if you're on a bumpy side road, you've really got to wrestle the bike around. That's part of the fun of it. Now, the brakes as well, you've got a single disc on the front and the rear, and the stopping power is perfectly good enough for this kind of bike. Now the Fat Boy has forward controls, and these are footboards as well, so you are in a lovely riding position. It's really good for my height. I'm 6'1", but the beauty of a footboard is that you can have your feet all the way back here when you're riding along, and you've basically got mid-control foot position, but you can also have them right at the front of the boards and have the forward control position. So it gives you a lot of versatility in where you place your feet, and of course when you need to use the rear brake or the gear shifter, you've got to put your foot forward. So that's a really nice thing to be able to do. The gears on this one I found to be extra clunky. Now Harleys have clunky gearboxes anyway, but this one is really quite clunky and stiff. But I quite like that actually, but I did find it a little bit hard to find neutral sometimes. So unless the engine was off, I couldn't really find neutral. But it's not too much of an issue, perhaps because it's a brand new bike. It needs to wear in slightly and that will become a little bit smoother over time. It comes with a rear seat, which seems a little bit padded, and you've got rear foot pegs as standard. I will try and test it out with my girlfriend on the back, so let me know if you want to find out what it's like on the back. You've also got this leather strap that you can hold on to, so it gives an extra option rather than holding around the front of you. Now the rear indicators are really good looking on this. They're a bit different to some of the other Harley models I've seen, and I absolutely love the style of those. Absolutely beautiful design. The amount of chrome on here is just so beautiful. Chrome is definitely making a comeback in my eyes, but the issue with chrome is that it's a lot of upkeep. You do have to keep polishing it, and in the winter when you put your bike away in the garage, you've really got to look after it, because I made that mistake the first winter with my bike. I left it in the garage, I didn't really go in there, I just left it on trickle charge. I thought it would be fine in the garage, it's in the dry. But the problem is it gets condensation in there. So once you get all the condensation on chrome bits, they can rust. So I did get rust around my wheels. I managed to get it off and polish it up back to pretty much how it would have been from factory. But you want to prevent that happening in the first place. So make sure you put some sort of film on there over the bike to protect it from condensation, and then you won't have that issue. When it comes to cool factor, it doesn't get much cooler than this. Everywhere you go on this bike, whether it's down a high street or you stop off somewhere at a cafe, people are going to stop, they're going to talk to you about this bike, they're going to ask you what it is. It really is a talking piece, and it's stunning. People stop in their tracks, turn their heads as you go past on the high street. What a motorcycle. So if you want a talking piece of a bike, this certainly is one. But it's not cheap. It's just over £22,500. Now I think the last time we reviewed one of these, they were £19,995. That was in 2021. So they have gone up in price. But the beauty of a Harley is that if you've got the money for one, you're pretty safe and secure with your money. It's an investment. It's one of those bikes that will appreciate rather than depreciate, or will stay the same at least. So if you come to sell this bike in a few years' time, you're more than likely going to get your money back, or near enough. You're not going to lose loads of money on this thing, and that is a good thing. Now in many years to come, who's to say what the prices of these bikes will be like in 10 or 20 years time. But I had an interesting conversation with a chap earlier about the BMW R18, because as we know, they haven't sold very well, and on the second-hand market you can pick one up for about 12 grand that's done 1,000 miles, so they really have dropped in price. But that could actually be a good thing in the long term, because in 20 or 30 years time those bikes will be rare, because not many people bought them, there won't be very many about, and normally those sorts of things then become collectibles. So because there's so few of them, the price might actually go quite a lot higher than it is now. So who knows, but that's a prediction that I think might happen. So time will tell. Let's see if that's true in 20 years time. So in conclusion then, would I recommend this bike? Well, absolutely I would. It's a stunning machine, it's beautiful, it's the true essence of a Harley, it's a proper cruiser, it's got so much torque, it's unbelievable. No, it's not the easiest bike to manoeuvre around in the car park. Yes, it is quite heavy, but The centre of gravity is very low, so it does hide its weight reasonably well, but compared to the Lowrider ST I rode recently, around the corners you do feel like you're riding a big hunky Harley, but that's part of the fun of it, as I say. What a beautiful bike. It's a marvellous thing to look at, to ride, and it really is great fun. So I've got this bike for about 2 weeks, so I can imagine I will definitely want to get back out on it. So if you want to see some more videos with this bike, perhaps some more laid back videos going out somewhere, looking at an interesting location, then do let us know down in the comments below. Let us know what you think of this motorcycle. Is this a true representation of what a Harley should be and what Harley should be producing more of? Let us know, see what you think. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.